A Brazilian wax sounds like an absolute joyride.
Yes,
you have to hop up on the table and say, here's my hoo-hoo, pretty much.
The Giants seem like a surefire bet. I was told by my local drugstore this week that Health Lunatics is continuing the gassy Tallahassee line of laxative product. And I'd say, who was the little shit that got candy corn stuck up his nose at the party last year?
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
It's always weird to me when something so small, like the bulb in our refrigerator went out.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I opened the refrigerator without fail, I thought, oh, it's not working. And then I was like, no, the light's just off.
That's why I ended up grabbing a Voodoo Ranger that I thought was water.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I feel like you take 3 steps forward and 1 step back. I was on this campaign of cleaning the kitchen. I scrubbed the refrigerator and took all the shelves out and got it all clean. And now the shelves don't go in right. So last night we were having a fire pit night, discovering more new great music for you, putting some things in the hopper.
Yes.
And so, discovering new music. And because the shelf was not put in correctly,
we had a blueberry disaster. Reached in the fridge to get something and out poured 6,000 blueberries. Why do they make those containers where they don't shut right? Blueberries.
It's like the clamshell. The button never ever goes back in tight after you open it the first time.
You have that in any other kind of fruit. The cherry containers are usually sturdy, but for blueberries, it's like they just use this.
Or even in the store, a lot of times they'll put a rubber band around it. But of course, you take that off when you start using them. And
blueberries are not easy to clean.
Of course, it was late. We'd have a couple drinks. We cleaned up as best we could. I was still finding blueberries this morning.
It's going to be a while. We're going to be finding them. And blueberries, they're hard to clean. They stain things. They don't sweep off.
So in my effort to clean us more, I just ended up having another cleaning project.
Yeah.
Never fails.
Well, let's talk about what I think is probably the most insulting thing you can do to another human being is to not remember their name. Because when you don't remember someone's name, basically what you're saying is you were not worth remembering. And then there's your gift.
I do have a gift for asking someone knew their name, but then I don't listen to it. Like I'm like distracted, and 2 seconds later I realize I didn't pay attention. I was distracted by protruding nose hair or a noise behind them, and it was somehow the distraction rendered me incapable of comprehension.
Mm-hmm. My ex had a large family, constantly growing, and I was not interested in keeping track. I just didn't want to use the disk drive space here to remember some schmuck cousin-in-law that looked like a Far Side character at a party. Especially when they would lead off conversations by insulting my autistic daughter. Some jackass in flip-flops would come up and say, looks like she keeps you on your toes, as I'm struggling with her. And I would just take a guess at the name. I guess so, Bernie. Mark, it's Dave. I'm Rebecca's husband. Of course, I had no idea who the hell Rebecca was either. Sorry about that, asshole. Go have another hot dog. My daughter just wiped out the beverage table. Yeah. The millennials in the family just kept popping out kids left and right. And I was never interested in committing their names to memory. It was like 310 nieces and nephews that we had. I would just say stuff like, that's the little shit that ran into my knee. Mark, that's Jacob. He wanted you to be his godfather. Great, I'll remember that when I'm icing my knee down. Thanks a lot. Or, to get that, I would just be kind of spitballing. I'd say, who was the little shit that got candy corn stuck up his nose at the party last year? Mark, that's Miguel, Lorna and Ron's son. Miguel? Aren't they Irish? What are they trying to win points with the cartel up front? And then there's your father.
Yeah, my own father. There was only my sister and I. And he would invariably, when he wanted me, he'd call me my sister's name and then maybe the dog's name. And I'm like, Dad, You have 2 kids.
It's not much to remember.
Yeah. And somehow my name just escaped him.
So we both work in Baltimore City, and throughout our travels, we've noticed that there are homeless people in stations at the different exit ramps. We see these same people every day.
And always varying lengths of signs. Sometimes people have a sign that goes down the front of them, like a Santa Claus Christmas list, listing, their tales of what happened and how many kids they have and how many pets they have and why they need you to help them. And some people just say, homeless, we'll take anything. It goes from the
God bless, support your veterans, et cetera, et cetera. So
ridiculous to the sublime.
yeah, and some of them hold the sign down real low where you can't see it. And it just seems like half-assing to me. So we were thinking of I would be much more willing to make a contribution if the signs were just a little more entertaining. Spend a little time on the signs. This is your identity. So we made some. And after we share these with you, we're going to go leave them up at the bus stop and see if anybody takes them.
It's going to be like yarn bombing, just with different kinds of art.
Except it's corrugated bombing.
Corrugated bombing.
All right, you take the first one. Hold it up good for the camera. What does it say?
It says, did not follow mom's advice. How many of us are in a homeless situation because we didn't, follow mom's advice of maybe not drinking all that NyQuil and Chardonnay before bedtime?
Yeah. Okay, let's see, which one is this? Okay, I like this one. The Giants seem like a surefire bet. It's a good one. Yeah.
With a little maybe Gambless Anonymous number at the bottom.
All right, here. This one for you.
Oh, I like how this says Misfits on the back of it. It all started when I got off at the wrong bus stop.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us haven't had their evening ruined by getting off at the wrong bus stop and having to walk 42 blocks and breaking a heel?
Yeah, they got homeless in the process. All right, what's this one? Oh, I like this one. Okay, it does say God bless. Holding out for a management position. I would give money for that. That's a good sign right there.
He's not working at Taco Bell, people. He won't do it.
All right, oops, sorry. You can close it out. Here, last one's you.
All right, this one just says market on the back. The victim of an ill-timed practical joke.
Yeah. These things happen. Everybody else moves on, and this poor guy's on a street corner. So, anyway, so this has been Alternative Signs for Homeless People with Mark and Stace. All right, why don't we talk about our feature interview today with the lovely Moira Murphy of Oyrad.
Our feature interview this week is with Moira Murphy and Matt Gotlin of the progressive doom band Oyrad. We have a great chat about the formation and development of the band, the making of their new record, Sacred and Profane. We discuss the best ways to harness creativity, Matt's multiple projects he's played in over the years, and how Moira filmed herself basically bathing in blood in their latest video. So stay tuned for that.
And this is the song from that video, which I highly encourage you to check out. It's just called Blood.
So,
okay.
Yeah, like I said, their videos are great. Their music is impressive. Their visual element always adds like one more thing to like about this band. You can go online and get one of these gorgeous prints of Moira. She's got a lot. It was very difficult. I chose the one with the sword, which will
migrate to our wall of fame.
End up in our wall of fame.
Yep.
However, there are great ones of her with horns in the forest. It goes on and on. They have a wonderful goddess pack, which is neat. You get a candle and a sweatshirt.
She's really got a flair for like gothy art. So yeah, definitely check that out. So prior to the internet, if you didn't like a product, let me just tell a little story here. I don't think I ever told this. My first boss that I had when I first got into logistics was a real jackass, right? And I remember I had 4 guys working for me, and we were busy as hell. And at one point we had a problem that I couldn't resolve. I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was. But I went in there to see my boss, and he was in there writing a letter to the Crest toothpaste company because he felt like the toothpaste in the tube was too powdery. And he didn't even want to hear what I'd say. He's like, "No, what do you think of this?" And he read it off the letter. I'm like, "This is what you do all day." Sorry, I have phones ringing. I have to go.
I don't think I've written many complaint letters in my life, but one time I bought this big Friskies wet food
Oh
for
yeah,
cats
I remember the story. Yeah.
mixed pack. Okay. The one flavor in there,
It was like
0 out of 4 cats
it
endorsed.
was
this
like dog
flavor.
shit flavor.
I don't know. It was called Fisherman's Catch. And, I sometimes one or the other would turn their nose up, but not all 4.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was dog shit flavoring. So we got to move this product.
So I don't know. I wrote a letter to them just basically saying, of my cat endorsement problems of their one flavor. They sent me a coupon for 3 free 20 packs, which I did not expect. But
Did you have to buy the crappy stuff?
No. Well, you could buy any mixed pack you wanted.
Okay.
But the problem was you present that coupon to your typical Walmart employee, they have to call for the manager. It doesn't just scan. They have to have it manually taken off.
Hey, you still get free pet food.
Yeah, and it was so weird. And you know what? We had that flavor accidentally one other time and they ate it. So I wonder if something wasn't wrong with it. I don't know.
Okay. In honor of this forgotten art of writing letters to the public relations department of a company, I have intermittently throughout this episode sprinkled some letters. So here is the first. I'm going to try to get through this one. Okay. To Complaint Department, Health Lunatics Incorporated. I was told by my local drugstore this week that Health Lunatics is continuing the gassy Tallahassee line of laxative products. This is extremely upsetting, as I typically take 4 pills an hour to keep me regular. I would like to point out that I have had other products that I've tried, but none of them offer the same explosive result. Please advise which U.S. stores will continue to stock this product, preferably with a public restroom. Thank you, Olivia Obstructed.
God.
So that's just the first one. I think we got a couple more on tap, but thinking about who thought of awful. Let's take a situation and make it awful. Like, who thought of these things? Like the first one, like what sadistic person thought of Brazilian waxing?
Yeah, I don't know. What female was shaving her legs and thought, yeah, this is inconvenient. You know what would do a much better job with getting rid of hair? How about boiling hot wax that we can pour on our naked skin and then rip it off after it cools?
Yeah.
Lovely.
That's wonderful.
A Brazilian wax sounds like an absolute joyride.
Yes, it
You have
does.
to hop up on the table and say, here's my hoo-hoo, pretty much, to a person who's not a doctor, and then they'll pour it on and they'll rip it off. I don't understand. It sounds like somebody who might like self-flatulation would enjoy this procedure.
Okay.
And you also get a bonus exfoliation as it takes off about the top 10 layers of skin with the hair.
Okay, I got one. Taco Bell has a meat gun when they make your food. Don't ever watch them make your food at Taco Bell. Well, don't eat at Taco Bell is what I would recommend. But if you're going to, do not watch them. Order and then avert your eyes because they have a guacamole gun, they have a sour cream gun, and a meat gun. I picture some corporate meeting. The executives are trying to figure out how to reduce drive-through time. We're spending up to 30 seconds per burrito on some locations. Then one of them notices in the background the maintenance man is caulking a nearby countertop. Wait a second, Johnson. I think I'm onto something. This is how it came.
Or that, or they watch the pit crew at NASCAR. They all run out with their guns. Could you imagine? They're all standing in a line and they run up to the burrito with their various guns.
I must have all meat products dispensed from a caulk gun. That's my stipulation. Here's another one. This actually did happen. So the BP station up by where I work, their show, as soon as you go to pay for your gas, you start pumping it, a video starts up on the screen. And this one is sadistic because they're actually really fascinating videos. This one was showing footage of great white sharks and seals in shallow water, kind of like playing cat and mouse, and a drone had filmed it. It was fascinating, right? And the seals like try to overwhelm the shark so that it can't
like a bum rush,
clamp down on them. Yeah. And it was just like, it was almost like a video game. It was fascinating. So he's closing in on this one seal, and then it just stopped because my tank was full. As soon as it clicks, it's over. And I'm like, fuck, I wanted to see the end of that. What happened with the seal? I can't buy any more gas to see the end of it. I mean, my tank's full. very frustrating. And I went home and tried to find it on YouTube. I couldn't find it. I was just like, God damn it, this is just sadistic, you know? All right. Well, I think it's time for another letter. Stacy's gone ahead and written a very good one here.
Complaint letter number 2.
Yes.
To Consumers Affairs, Maniacal Pet Foods.
Maniacal Pet Foods.
My cat, Commander Fuzzy Bottom, has always enjoyed MPF products until now. But we are having an issue with your latest flavor, tomato and deadbird souffle.
Yes.
After one feeding of the aforementioned product, Commander Fuzzy Bottom began climbing on the turntable.
The commander.
Sorry.
The commander.
The commander. The Commander Fuzzy Bottom began climbing onto the turntable and spinning himself at 78 revolutions per minute for the better part of an hour. He then shredded all of my Joanne Fabrics coupons and did the worst imitation of Harvey Korman I have ever seen.
It was abominable.
Is there a certain ingredient in this new flavor that could cause such behavior? I suspect the tomato. Thanks, Wanda worried.
I don't want to get a response because that's just crazy. I mean, at least if he did a good Harvey Korman impersonation, that would have kind of made up for it. But... Okay, so moving on. A couple months ago, we were really proud to debut our first Mark and Stace pen song, The Ballad of Silas Turner. And the response to it has been phenomenal. And we've gotten so much kudos for it that we actually went back and found some of the footage and put together a short documentary about the making of this.
It was
this groundbreaking song.
It was a labor of love.
It was. So we're going to go ahead and take you now to this is the making of the Ballad of Silas Turner.
So it works because he has to choose between his obsession with whack-a-mole and the love of his grandmother.
I just think, I'm just spitballing, but going back to the celery in the ear thing, I think it was funnier. I think more people would relate and understand it.
I felt like it was too metaphysical. The concepts that we came up with, I like the ones that take the idea of unconditional love to the most ridiculous conclusion. That I think that's the stronger elements that came up.
Do we have to have the fucking fan on?
It's for effect. Rock and roll.
It's louder than the fucking guitar. Is it supposed to be? Is it just that I could have the white snake hair blowing?
Yeah, it's old.
I don't think we need the fan.
So if you really want to hear the full backstory and the inside scoop, I can tell you that there's a lot that Mark had to leave out about the Ballad of Silas Turner. For instance, Silas was actually a disgraced copyright infringement attorney that after his fall from grace, he decided to start a religion or a cult or some such thing. And after that, he kind of made up his own alternate Olympic games with things like volcano boarding, chess boxing, pickleball, that sort of thing.
Ballad of Silas Turner. It's one of those songs that just moves you, Feel it in your soul. That man had dedication. Yeah.
I'm gonna lace in like a reggae part, like that one Pretender song. It's like, just kind of comes in at the end. Something like that. I swear there's a Pretender song where they do that.
what they say, every singer-songwriter has a small list of songs they wish they would have written. Well, the Ballad of Silas Turner, that's one of them for me. Damn!
Tired of waiting. Right. Remember this one?
Our love is alive, and so it begins. Foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in. Our love is a flame, burning within. Now and then, firelight will catch us, stumbling in.
You were so young, and I was so hung. What's going on? What are you doing?
What, I was just listening to the song.
Do you know what time it is?
It's like 4:45?
Right, we agreed I have to leave at 4. It stops at 4.
Just because it's 4:45 doesn't mean I'm going behind your back.
Whatever. The hell you're not.
Man, the Ballad of Silas Turner. I mean, like, where do I even begin? I frankly, I think it's one of the best songs ever made. I'm sorry, like thinking about it, I just get really emotional because it's such a heartfelt song, and it just really, I'm sorry, it just really cuts deep, and you know, it's the type of art that I think we should all aspire to, and I think is the type of art that's really missing in today's society. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ride, Illinois boy, ride. It's your world and you're the master. Ride, Illinois boy, ride. The policeman is faster. Ride, Illinois boy, ride. It's your world and you're the master. Ride, Illinois boy, ride. Pedestrians are faster. That was nice. I mean, I didn't realize that it had such an emotional impact on some people. I mean, you saw some of the video. I mean, it really
It's touched a lot of people, but you know, we just are thrilled with the amount of overwhelming support and emotional response, and we're glad we touched people.
I was just driving to work one day and I thought, oh, I think I'll write a song about a guy that robs a bank on a lawnmower. I didn't expect all this. Freaking Stairway to Heaven or something. Anyway, so let's play another Oyrad song. This is Scorched Earth. Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/Snaggletooth podcast. You go and speak. I'm going to dig up the albums I'm reviewing this week.
Okay, so we do have a page just for the patrons of this show, which you can become very, very cheaply. It's less than probably your regular monstrosity milkshake that you get at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. And for that, you help support us and in turn support artists that we feature and support on this show, as well as keep us sane. We put on tons of bonus content for you.
Yep.
So, Mark, what reviews are you putting up this week?
This week, it's going to be another edition of Mark's obscure 7-inch reviews. I have not listened to these yet. This is a band called Annihilation Time. Came out on Tank Crime, so it's probably good because Tank Crime's rules. And then this one, the band is called Mega Scavenger. Terrible name, but hey, it might be good. I think it's death metal. I don't know. It's on Self-Made God, the label of Anti-Gamma. So both are on good labels, but I have no idea if they're good. And would you like to know if either one of these records are good? You got to go over to Snaggletooth Podcasts at Patreon.
He also includes some great introspective retrospectives on some other great bands.
Right. Forgotten Black Sabbath, Forgotten Judas Priest. Yeah, I mean, so there's really a lot over there
And
that
my
rivals the quality of this material on this show.
and my helpful cooking tips and tricks
Absolutely.
that I have learned, and I have many.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to make a new phone graphic. I deleted it by accident when I was cleaning house. I tend to do that. So anyway, so yes, go see us over at Patreon. We need your patronage.
Also, give us a follow on Instagram or Facebook. We also put up a lot of outtakes and photographs, and you also get previews of what's coming on our next show.
Okay.
As well as fan interaction. We do ask questions. We do take polls. We take all our answers very seriously and incorporate them into this show.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, let's talk about Home Chef.
All right. Our sponsor this week is Home Chef, near and dear to our hearts.
It's not this, sadly. But go ahead.
Filling us with yummy things. You can get this service delivered right to your door. You don't have to worry when you're making dinner. What are we going to have? Digging through cookbooks, journeying through online, getting exposed to 50,000 ads to find the recipe. I hate that trend.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry when you're making it that you're not going to have something. Ever start making dinner and realize you're out of 3 ingredients that you need? Oh, we don't have any Parmesan cheese. You got to stop and run to the store. Everything you need is included in the box. Everything is labeled. You get your meats, you get your produce, you get everything you need to make these yummy meals. This week, we have a Big Smack burger. Everything in Home Chef is prepared fresh, so you won't ever use frozen vegetables. They will teach you how to make fries out of potatoes. You will never go back to the frozen. It's easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and it's delicious. And everything's about sauces. It'll change the way you cook. It's changed the way I cook, even when I'm not making a Home Chef.
Just make sure you cook the pork chops all the way through.
We also got apple and goat cheese flatbreads. However, they always let you customize. So I added shrimp to this. So you can add impossible meat. You can have no meat. You can alter it however you like. They're very flexible with their ingredients. Their flatbreads are rather yummy too. Also, we have a tortilla pork chop that also has zucchini and squash, which of course we're getting down to the end of our garden. So again, you can customize this however you like. You can always switch things up. You can always order more meals, less meals. You can get it every week. You can get it every other week. You can get it once a month. But it comes right to your door, very convenient, and I guarantee I have not made a meal from them that wasn't absolutely delicious.
And that's where that phrase comes from. What's the little trichinosis between friends? That's where that came from. Anyway. Okay. Home Chef.
Yeah.
Seems like it's time for collectivation. Really good one this week, folks. Gotta find it. Let's see. This week, we are featuring the Cult's massive 1987 record, Electric. Now, few people realize the gamble that was involved in the making of this record. If you go back to the band's earliest origins, first there was Southern Death Cult, which was good, and then in 1984, Dreamtime came out, and it was a fantastic goth rock album. It was full of angst and quality musicianship. Then came 1985's Love record, which went to number 4 in the UK. Both singles cracked the top 20. The band seemed like they had found their niche, and Beggar's Banquet, the label, booked them into Manor Studio in Oxfordshire during the summer of '86 for the follow-up. They recorded 12 songs with Steve Brown, who would later go on to work with Wham and Manic Street Preachers. The next album was to be called Peace. Get it? Love, peace. But the band hated the recordings. Ian Astbury was completely detached from the sessions, obsessing over American culture, New York City, and AC/DC.
Astbury hooked up with Rick Rubin, who had just produced the Beastie Boys' License to Ill and Slayer's phenomenal Rain and Blood records, but it was still a huge risk. The Cult was an established commodity. They had what 99% of other bands would have wanted: album sales, label support, successful touring, but they just wanted to rock and take over American radio.
That's right. So this is Wildflower. Okay. In subsequent interviews, Rick Rubin has said that he didn't produce the cult, he reduced them. It's interesting to compare the Peace stuff they recorded versus the versions that made it onto Electric. All of that stuff that was recorded for the Peace album was released on CD in the late 80s. They called it like the Manor Sessions, the Electric Sessions, etc. And my fucking college roommate hated this record, and he deliberately bought them so that he could torture me with the fluffier versions of the songs that I love. So anyway, those songs on the original sessions are much more nuanced, flowy, arpeggiated, but Electric is as stripped down as the band could possibly get. Kick drum is amplified to ridiculous levels. Their drummer at the time, Les Werner, was really into Thin Lizzy and Brian Downey's kind of epic Phil style. Rubin took all that shit out of the mix. It was just kick drum to ridiculous levels.
When the album came out, everyone was divided. They lost tons of goth fans, and the hard rock magazines didn't exactly jump on board either. The album eventually went to number 4 in the UK and had 3 hit singles, same as Love. But the big difference was Electric cracked the US top 40. Of course, the D-bags at Rolling Stone panned it.
Of course, they always miss the mark. Now, interesting. Just look at the outfits. Like it was like they didn't know how to dress for hard rock. I mean, look, Billy Duffy looks like he's ready for his rockabilly band. Asbury's got that weird fur hat on, and the other two look like they just finished doing sessions for Duran Duran or something. I mean, compare that. All right, so this was 87, and this was also 87. They would actually tour with Guns N' Roses later that same year. Look how much more in style these guys look.
There's a cohesive look here.
Compare this to this. I mean, it was just like the cult didn't know how to. The dress is so odd at this time, you know. But anyway, great record, and let's play the one about the devil, King Contrary Man.
Okay, so it is time. Here is our interview with Oyrad, which is the lovely Moira and Matt. So we had a great chat with them. We discussed a lot of things. We have a lot of laughs. Really love this band. They are so different, but they are so good at what they do. And I really think they're about to break out on the big stage as far as bands go.
And they don't sound like anybody else. Yeah.
So here's our conversation with Moira and Matt.
So where are you guys geographically? I know you're not together. Like, where are you guys set up at?
I'm in East Tennessee.
Okay.
So I'm like 40 minutes west of Asheville, North Carolina. So like right on the border, 2 hours east of Knoxville.
Right. Okay.
And I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Okay. Wow. Gotcha.
Now, you run across that more and more these days, like with bands being, even different countries we even have run into. And, they make it work just by, being able to send each other files. It's so great,
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
We forgot whenever we drink seltzer on this show, we usually put duct tape on it and write "fuck off" on it because we're not a sponsor.
So somebody one day was like, "Is that your sponsor?" I'm like, "Oh, for God, no!"
Right.
No, and it
So-
was like front
So
and
if you know
center.
any small seltzer companies that are looking for a sponsor, we could use it.
Oh, we have another sponsor. That's not our sponsor. That was pretty
We'll have
funny.
to get to that later.
So anyway, I have a funny story for you guys. I work in a medical office and I'm usually first one in the morning. I'm all by myself. I'm opening up exam rooms and, I had you guys on full blast the other day.
Oh,
And
nice.
Our first patient isn't until 7:45. It's like 7:25. I'm singing, I'm opening exam rooms, and I walk out and it was this rather old lady standing there in the dark of the waiting room. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I will be right with you." I said, "I still have to get a couple things open." And she's talking to me for a minute, and then she stopped and said, "What is this? Music?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's my music." I said, it's Oyrad. I was like, "I'll shut it off." She's like, "No, I like it."
That's so great.
Yes.
Progressive doom from the woods. What do you want?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like 85 years old. I was like, "Okay."
Grandma approved. That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's,
Not
that's our
exactly the target audience, but
right
we'll
there.
take it.
What?
Oh my goodness.
I thought you guys would get a kick out of that because that was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Before we start, I just wanted to know, probably a good place to start as any. Metal Archives lists 5 people, but every picture is just you guys. So what is the real lineup, and what is there a story?
So I have been emailing them multiple times trying to fix that. Yeah, because I don't know who it is that originally set it up, because years ago I actually saw that someone had taken stills of us from a music video and put our whole profile in there, and I have no idea who this person was. So we were originally a 4-piece band, and we had a different drummer named Kyle. And that was when I think the first little bit of the profile I noticed had appeared, and we were doing some little shows in Denver. And then we had a bit of a switch up, and Matt came on board to do drums, and we were doing some shows in Denver. We did some music videos, and we were working on the EP. And we took the EP, we published it and everything in 2021. And that was the solid traditional 4-piece lineup. And then things transpired as life happens, and in 2022 I moved back home out here to Tennessee, and we kept the project going. But at the time, just all being the age we are, and life responsibilities and things like that, it kind of became just the two of us. Luca, our guitarist, who's been my friend for years and who was there from the very beginning, he decided to he needed to work on some other projects, and me moving was the perfect time to kind of transition. Just the nature of the band at that time. So when we started working on music videos for this album, we had pictures taken that was just, me and Matt, because, the vibe is a little different now anyway, so we just kind of wanted to redo that whole imagery. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff out there with like former band members and profiles and stuff. And it's not bad. Like, I don't want to erase them at all, because they've been like such important, integral parts to the project. And Luke is actually playing with us on the upcoming tour. He's coming back to play with us, but they're not current, like official
contributing members.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're kind of doing this Final Tap thing.
Well, I the first ones to have that. We've had this with some other bands too. They have no idea how to get the wrong information off Metal Archives. Like, who do you contact?
Yeah, I've sent in there are some instructions, I think, when you're on the edit tab to, send in the request, and I did that. But I know a lot of things like these wikis are, volunteer based. It's people who are really passionate. Like the other day I was on it and I saw someone had written this really lovely review, and it had been posted from a blog, and I was like, oh, this is great, and it's a labor of love for people, and in a way it's cool that they're still digging back and they're finding stuff about Luca or about Adam or about Kyle, and I think that's great, but I do know it can be a little confusing.
Right. Your request number 6,212, on number 3,
Totally. And I get it. I get what that's like. So,
So when you go on tour, it would be just the 3 of you that would be the touring group, or more?
Well, what we're doing this time is it's the 3 of us as the, core and people who wrote the majority of all of the songs. And we have a guy named Roy jumping on board to do rhythm guitar. So we'll have our double guitar action going on again live. And at the moment, we're doing our bass tracks from the album, along with all the orchestral stuff I wrote, kind of mixed in for live situations, that Matt is doing all that stuff on his end. So
yeah, so we're running backing tracks basically, which is going to be really interesting because we're playing some really small venues, and that's not typically a thing that you see a lot of small bands do at small venues. So I'm excited and nervous to see how it turns out, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, people seem to like what we did when we did the venue in Denver last February. Granted, that venue was slightly bigger, but yeah, I used to have a lot of anxiety about, okay, I'm doing something that has an orchestral track, or we're doing something that's very particular. This is not going to be the market for this location. And then, this last year with the move and everything, I thought, you know what, screw it. This is what we're doing, and it's going to be weird. And, and I think people respond to the authenticity. If you're honestly doing it and you're not doing it as a shtick, and you're doing it because it's your stuff, they'll be like, oh, that's cool. That's different. And people, especially at these small venues, they're up for something weird and something different, right?
Oh, it's hard to travel around with an entire orchestra with you. That gets
there's if you ever, it's mind-boggling. There's an old documentary about ELO in the 70s, and they were actually traveling with like 17 people with violins and violas, and it's just a different time, there wasn't no backing tracks, I guess.
Yeah. What a nightmare that must have
Can you
been.
imagine?
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in a small place, it's probably easier to do a mosh pit than an orchestra pit.
The viola players resent the violin players, and how come those guys are getting paid more than we? There's all that.
Right.
But also like without them doing that kind of stuff, like we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So like credit where credit is due,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, all hail Jeff Lynne. Don't get me started.
So I really thought you guys do a great job of combining like the symphonic and the metal. It's kind of really a good equal blending of both. Do you think that you use a formula to make sure it never gets too heavy on each side, or is it just something that you have to have an ear for?
Okay, I'll give my quick thoughts on this and you can jump in, Matt. So when I first started the project years and years ago, I was coming right out of only doing classical music, and I really wanted to do this formula based on Nightwish because that's how I had gotten into metal. And I thought, well, if they hear my voice, this is what they want. So I was trying to give people what they wanted, which was that very traditional kind of staid, this is the orchestra part, this is where the guitar riff comes in, the guitar riff isn't exciting in this part. And we released the EP and I thought, this isn't what I want to do. And like working on songs of Matt and Luca, and they all have experience in doing what they call, was it contemporary American music is what it's called, but it's like jazz and things like that, and having really interesting sensibilities in what would be a cool sound, or revoicing a chord to sound jazzier, or putting in a weird meter shift, and it fit us authentically. So we went in with a new album not saying this is going to be this or that. I said, this is the poem, this is the melody I came up with. Luca's going to create some cool harmonization to it. Then we're going to work out what fits that poetry. And when I started taking orchestration lessons, I basically just wanted to write in a way that complemented when we had a cool riff or there was a vibe to it and it was heavy, and also fitting my own voice of the weird sort of heavy lush harmonies that I like, instead of saying this is going to be symphonic and there's a guitar solo here and this is the part where this happens and there's only blast beats here. It's been more what serves the poetry, and I'll send the roughest ideas to them and they'll be like, here, what about this? Or this is what I felt. And usually it's like 1,000 times better than what I was thinking anyway. So that's kind of how that's how I see it on my end. I don't know how you feel about that, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, going back to just like the way that you phrased that question, the first thing that popped into my head was like, if there was a formula, then it would be easy, and this is not, it's not easy. Like, I love participating in this project. I love working on the music, but it's difficult. And to Moira's credit, she's just so driven and she has so many ideas. And she has done literally just, I mean, it's kind of, I'm kind of in disbelief at all of the work that she's done. I mean, she's taken arranging lessons and composition lessons, and I mean that doesn't even begin to like scratch the surface of her accomplishments as like a vocalist and a pianist, and all of this stuff. And like she has done so much legwork to just like bring all of her ideas into existence. And sometimes we sit down together and it's like, oh, here's 500 things that I'm thinking of, and the challenge is, and like this is the furthest thing from a criticism, because you want to work with people that are creative like this. You want to work with people that have a lot of ideas, but it can be overwhelming sometimes when you're just like, I have no idea what direction I want this to go in. And like she probably wouldn't say that she's a leader, but I mean, really, like this record is her voice. This record is like her voice and her emotion just runs through the core of every single song on this album. And I mean, it's really just like as a drummer and as somebody who has like kind of a rhythmic basis for everything that we're trying to put out, really like my intention is just I want to write stuff that I'm excited to play. I want to write stuff that I think if I have like a sense of heart and soul and like passion and enthusiasm for what we've put together, then I have faith that the two of us are going to combine it and make something that we're really proud of.
Very eloquently said. I also pay him to compliment me.
Also true. Not very much, but
No, I totally get what you're saying. Because we have the same thing with the show. As soon as I come up with some crazy idea, it's either great or it's something that's just going to overwhelm us, and it's easy to just for it to be too much. It is.
Mhm.
Just
I need an editor.
to add one thing more and add one thing more and learn this skill and that. But it's good. And I think you guys have pulled it off super well, just incorporating more and more and more and more. I think it works.
Yeah, our joke is that whenever I give it a cutesy name, we're doomed that it's going to happen. Once it's got a label, it's like, oh no.
I've been trying to do the skit with sock puppets, and I'm scared.
It's going to be cool. It's
Nice.
satanic sock puppet story.
Perfect.
So I'm at work watching YouTube videos on how to make sock puppets now. I'm just
oh my god.
Oh my god. IT's gonna go to HR and be like, is Buddy okay over there?
Yeah, I know. HR. Oh, there's some stories there. Yeah.
So obviously you're a clinically trained soprano, soprano.
Right.
I can't even talk. So have you ever worked on a project in the past that maybe wasn't yours and it was somebody else's and you like hated it?
I hated it.
Or thought, oh, this is not good, or I would have done things differently?
That's an interesting question. I think what's been really awesome about doing this is it's the first time I've been able to do something that was actually mine. Because and as I explain to people a lot is that in terms of form and mood and poetry, opera and metal are very similar, but that's kind of where the similarities end because my entire training is based on doing everybody else's work. You don't get to be the creator, you're the artisan. So classical music is more about being an artisan than a creator. And then when you go into other genres, you get to be the creator. And so it's a very different world. And so you get used to saying, oh, it's a paycheck. I don't really like this, but I'm singing it because I get paid at the end of the gig, right? Or, it's not my favorite thing, but I like to sing. So here it is, here's my here's my paycheck, it's where it comes to. And then you'll have those moments where you're doing a gig and it does feel great and it feels wonderful. But, there have been a few projects I've done, and I mean, I've sung every genre. Someone's like, hey, do you want to sing Eye of the Tiger? Hey, let's do a jazz combo. Hey, you want to do this? Like, I've done it, to do it. And it's great to have experiences. But, there have been a few things where I didn't necessarily agree with the direction or the quality of the direction going on, but I don't want to slam someone for it because, it's their project. We're all in different places. We have different priorities as to how that art should serve the audience, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't necessarily say I really hated something, but there have been times where I've been part of a project and I thought, what if we did this would be better. But I also want to respect that it's theirs. It's not my project. I'm here to fill a role, and whatever that role is, I want to do that role well, because that's also kind of the flip side of doing. So there's the two sides of the music life for me, the side that it's all me and all my passion, and then the other side, which is paycheck, right? Or, networking or helping out a friend because you believe in their work too, even if it's not your thing, it's their thing and you're happy for them. So you do it,
I have to ask Moira, have you read Frank Zappa's book?
No, I haven't. I should though, because
You
I've
really should,
watched
because
interviews. So
the best part of it is he makes parallels between the orchestra and a rock and roll band.
Mhm.
Like he says, all bass players are failed guitarists, just like all viola players are failed violin players. I mean, and then like the way that the orchestra complains about the way he's the type of microphone they're using, they don't think it's going to sound good because it doesn't look like a Shure 57.
Yeah.
Anyway, I highly recommend it because there's a lot of classical versus rock parallels.
Yeah. I've watched a lot of his interviews on YouTube that people posted and kind of how he viewed all of his projects as a business. And someone turned me on to that a while back, and I really resonate with that a lot because he was very true to his voice, like, but he also was very pragmatic and said, well, to survive, I have to think about it both ways, which, Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah.
For you, Matt, what kind of drumming did you do before this, and what kind of bands were you in?
I mean, I always, I kind of have done a little bit of everything. I've always been into heavy music. I mean, probably since like a year or two after I started playing drums, I just sort of like gravitated towards the heavier side of things. So, I've always been into like punk and pop punk and like progressive metal. Dream Theater was like my first music nerd band that really inspired me. And then, like you start digging into like the guys that influenced them. And then I started listening to like Rush and Yes. And then, like that branched out into bands like Porcupine Tree, who were awesome and like a huge influence of mine. But I mean, I guess like to go back to specifically talking about what I've played, I mean, I've played in like crappy pop punk bands. I've played in jazz trios. One of the things I actually really love doing is playing in pit orchestras for live musicals. That's something that I have a lot of fun doing. I did a lot in college. Um, Moira and I met actually playing in kind of like a singer-songwriter, I don't want to say country, but like country adjacent type
Yeah.
of band.
Yeah.
This really fabulously gifted singer-songwriter, Hallie Spoor, who I think is in New York, but was based out of Denver for a little while. And we were in her band together, and it was like kind of like a Sheryl Crow meets Joni Mitchell meets Lumineers type of vibe.
Mhm.
So I mean, I've done a little bit of everything, and I think like my heart and soul has always kind of been in like play fast and loud, but I've also dipped my toes in the like in the musical theater world. It's like you're just playing like really quietly under a pillow of sound from the orchestra and from the cast, and so um, it's really just like I just loved to perform. Love being in a room with other musicians, and as long as it's something that I'm interested in, even if it's uh, just like playing like two beat country brushes in a little dive bar, like I'm into it. If the music's good, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I know
Yeah.
what you mean. At the height of my like the mid '90s black metal obsession, I was recruited to play Dave Matthews songs for our wedding, and I had to learn almost like all of his big hits, and it was just had to get through it.
He may or may
Yeah.
not have played Slayer a little.
Just the song. I needed to express myself,
Yeah, I mean, I always, like the advice that I got from my teachers and from my like the people who influenced me on a personal level, mentors and whatnot, is like you're never too good for anything. You're never like too good to learn something from whatever a gig or a performance or like a sheet of music has to teach you, right? So like there's always something that you can draw from it, and I think that that's something that's really important to like keep in perspective, especially as like people who are trying to make it in the artistic world, is that there's always value in whatever you're performing and whatever you're trying to work on.
Oh yeah. So the huge skill set you can get from just doing every genre out there is, yeah, I always advocate to people or like young singers or people I talk to is like, yeah, sing every genre, do the thing. You may actually discover you really love it too. And that's why I was going to jump on what Matt said is I can't recommend Hallie enough. She is amazing. Like she's so like if you want to hear like the reincarnation of like Joni Mitchell or like Carly Simon or something. She's so good. She's has a new album coming out. And I've been keeping up with her and keeping in touch with her. But yeah, and that was the thing I learned how to sing backing harmonies without sheet music. I had to learn how to do it by ear for her band, and I'd never done that before. And it was like such a great skill to learn, and she's just like so awesome to sing for. So yeah, and everyone's like, "What? What kind of music?" I'm like, "Yeah."
That's great that you're taking classes and things. 'Cause I read a quote from some guitar player when I was young, and I forget who it was, but he said, a lot of guitarists figure they can learn all the theory and then they'll just forget it later and keep the good stuff, except everybody struggles with the forgetting part.
Yeah.
Now, what's that like have you ever felt like it's like how do you weave in the academics? Does it ever feel like it's too much theory, or how do you balance?
Oh man, I want to hear what Matt has to say about this.
Yeah, so I mean, for me in particular, like, you know, I tend to downplay like my contribution a lot because like as a drummer, like I kind of have like a basis in music theory. Like I went to music school, like, I can play chords on piano, I can do scales and stuff, and like when I sit down and like try to write for this band, I like kind of know just from an aural point of view, like, what sound that I'm trying to convey through like scales and modes and chords and whatever. But I don't have the performance ability to sit down at a piano and be like, oh, I want it to sound like, this, that, and whatever. Like I can't just sit down at a piano and play an idea. I have to literally like, chicken peck it out or whatever. Um, and it's so frustrating sometimes because I sit there and I try to do this stuff and I'm like, come on, like you took jazz theory, you took jazz composition in college, like you should be able to do this. This should be right here. And it's here, but it's not in my fingers. So it's like I have to find another way to kind of like direct that creative energy. So sometimes I'll like try to play an idea behind the drums that kind of has maybe like a melodic arc to it, or like a rhythmic phrasing where it's like, okay, we're like I'm almost like you're writing a sentence or like a paragraph with rhythm, like consequent and antecedent phrases and stuff like that, like stuff that like call and response, whatever. And it not everything has to be, based in melody or harmony or like chord scale theory or anything like that. And then it's like if I have a specific idea and I have a mood that I want to convey, it's like, okay, I just communicate, this is what I'm trying to do, and let your performance fingers kind of do the rest of the job. And I think that we kind of have a healthy balance of that too, because the way that we talk about drums is also kind of the way that I struggle talking to other musicians about melodic ideas and stuff like that, is like other folks don't know how to describe what they want rhythmically, and it's up to me to interpret that. So there's a lot of interplay and kind of back and forth there, but it's healthy, and it's just part of the process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it works great in a track like Blood, where you start off, with your classical piano, and then it just kind of descends into these blast beats, and it kind of goes light to darker to darker.
Yeah.
Guys do that so well. When you do that, does it kind of just happen organically, or is it kind of planned descension?
I think it's a little of column A and a little column B, depending on the song, right? Because there have been times, and I was gonna say Matt does that really well, and he's talking about creating an arc in the rhythmic motion that mirrors some sort of melodic motion, which I think is really important, because that's kind of how I view music, instead of the regular like, oh, here's the because there's two different ways I think you could look at building a song, and I want to think of it in terms of that phrasing. And so along those lines, I think sometimes that move to a riff is spoken for and how the phrase goes. Or if I already have in mind, like I tell them, okay, this is going to be dropped, this is going to be really low, this is going to be in C minor, and if the beginning Beethoven sonata is in 3/4 time, but we want it in 4/4, that's going to slow it down, right? And make it feel like really heavy. So then, I would take that, and in Blood in particular, Luca came up with the da 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 da, that little riff thing that's like so ominous sounding. And I think we were able to just kind of build off of that. And a thing Matt does a lot too is like, I'm speaking for Matt here, is the rhythmic modulation, right? Like you want to take something and then you build on it, and you either make it faster or slower in order to like feed where that melody wants to go. Again, it's song by song, in my opinion, at least. And I don't know if, Luca and Matt, when they were writing those songs with me, if they agree that that's kind of how that
Yeah.
works.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You both speak so eloquently about the music. It reminds me of when I was in a band in my heavy band years. I just wanted to be Johnny Thunders with the cigarette hanging out. I wanted to forget everything I learned about music theory, But every once in a while we'd be jamming and I'd go, it's a flat 7. And I go, oh, still there somewhere.
Yeah.
What did you say, Mark? About nothing. Nothing. I didn't say anything.
A flat what?
A flat what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think you answered my question about, because I had a question about alchemy, because I heard so much jazz in that. Did that come from you, Matt?
So this
You're
track
laughing.
in particular, this was such a frustrating one to do. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out, but I look back on that session and when I was in the studio working on that song, and I was just like, this is an absolute mess. And you know, that was nobody's fault, and it was just like, you know, again, a credit to like Moira's songwriting ability and like her willingness to just like bring everything into the room. But I think it was maybe like a week or 10 days or something before we had the studio time booked. And she sent me this email and she goes, oh, hey, Natalie, who's another guitarist who had performed with us at one point, sent me this idea. And I think it was just like a short repeating melodic phrase. And it was that's all it was. There was no progression, there was no sense of that arc that we're talking about. And she sends this to me and she's like, can we make something out of this? And I'm like, I don't know, we're going into the studio in 10 days, like we can try. You know. And she kind of, I think like you put some kind of like MIDI rhythm guitar behind it or something, I don't really remember, but
Yeah, it was her guitar actually. So
oh, okay.
yeah, so the chords and everything, the harmony was very jazzy, but the bass line was moving in
Yeah.
the words.
Counterpoint.
No, like when you flip an inversion, basically, because you're
Oh,
getting
yeah.
flash chords. So
Yeah.
now it's like, what if we had the thing not move over it, like the chuggy, sort of like the triplet feel? So that was actually her, but I felt like there was no motion beyond that to make the verses interesting because it was so soulful and jazzy, and that's kind of how the melody came out. So I wrote the little piano interlude after the chuggy guitars, and I was like, can you write drums to the and it
Yeah.
was
I mean,
literally improvising at the piano, and I came up with this thing and I sent it, and I was like, well, if this doesn't work, that's fine, but let's just see. You know, I had moved, like half my stuff wasn't unpacked yet. It was just
yeah,
it was a mess. Like
it was such a mess. I mean, and it turned into such a beautiful mess. But and like we were never in the same room and discussing this song at all. Like it just was like I was in the studio and I think it was maybe the last thing that I did with the engineer in the studio, because it was just me and the engineer Colin at the band cave where we did all of our writing and recording. And it was the last thing that we worked on the last day of the tracking for the album, and we both just kind of looked at each other and we're like, I don't know what's going on here, man.
We didn't have anything put together for this song, and then you know the bridge comes along and I'm talking with the engineer and I'm just like, we need a piano solo. So then that's when we decided that we were just going to do like this little jazzy speakeasy piano solo thing, and it just kind of turned into a thing. And like through the magic of modern studio editing and whatever, it turned into what it is. And we're happy with it, but it was crazy. It was
and they were
yeah.
too nice to text me and be like, you're crazy. What are you thinking? Like they were just like, is this what you want? They were texting me at the studio while I was here in Tennessee. They should have just said that I was full of shit, but they didn't. But it was great because, you know, all of that, pretty much what you did is what is the song. It's just Vic, you know, Vic does such a good job mixing, mastering, and he did the blues guitar solo, because I was talking to him and I said, you know, it's cool, but there's something missing and I honestly don't know what it is. And I was out with my sister one day and I got a Facebook message from him, and it was just, he was like, how's this? And I hear it play and I was like, and I was like, yes, that's it. Because he's like a genius. So and I feel like that really brought cohesion to it, was him adding that little blues guitar into it, you know, because Vic and I met doing jazz too, so it was just kind of neat that he was able to say, here's, you know, literally 45 seconds to bring the ends of the song together in the middle, you know, and it worked out. And I think it's because stylistically it was kind of similar to a lot of stuff we'd both done before, you know? So yeah, there it is, and it worked out, and people seem to think it's interesting. So it
Yours
was
turned out great. There's no hard and fast rule that you all have to be in the same room together. I mean, if you,
exactly.
I've read so many interviews of these beloved rock songs where they say, "Oh my gosh, we just tacked on a piano intro here and fixed it in the
Yeah.
mix later, and I messed with the drums and it's, so I mean, if it sounds good, it is good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think another of my top tracks was Scorched Earth on this one. The drumming is almost tribal. It's really good. And then with the lyrics, is it about some Native American event? I couldn't quite.
Yeah, it's well, not necessarily a Native American event. It's so I was thinking about a lot of things in my life changing very drastically, to the point where people were like, why are you stopping doing this? Why aren't you doing this anymore? Right. And making not quite a clean break, but a clean break with a lot of career paths, a lot of people I hung out with, a lot of these things. And I kept thinking about the term scorched earth tactics, because people always said, don't burn your bridges, don't burn your bridges. And I'm like, oh, I'm not burning my bridges. I'm not telling people to go screw themselves, right? But I'm starting over completely. I tried so hard for so long to do only traditional opera, and I got past the age limit where I'm considered too old now, and, no agent and all of this stuff. And I was like, well, I want to do something interesting. And people are like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And so it was about starting over, and like literally just raising everything to the ground, and fire being this cleansing imagery for that, and saying, I'm literally just going to burn everything to the ground, pick out the pieces I want, the things that don't get disintegrated, and build myself back off of that. And that can be scary. That can leave you with a very big responsibility and a burden to start over. And so that's what the song means. It's about, starting over, starting fresh, even if it's kind of dangerous or scary or can turn some people off. And that's why I wanted it, first in the whole life cycle of the album. And Matt knows I love a good Tom's groove. I love like really tribally sounding things. And, I'm really interested in my Scots Irish heritage and how, bluegrass even came from a lot of that, frame drums and the tribal frame drums, and how they're very similar to Persian frame drums. A lot of that feel and that sound coming from an older place. And then that goes into a whole other conversation, my interest in world religions and mythology, and just alluding to something old to say that it's still pertinent now, And so when I gave that idea to Matt, and Luca came up with a really cool riff for it, that's just kind of where that went.
Wow. And then your videos are a whole nother piece. Obviously, you're that adds a whole nother visual element to it. But for blood, for gosh sake,
for blood,
Holy smokes.
how long were you swiddling that stuff? And then you're like,
oh man,
I just pictured like your mom, your grandmother saying, look where she's become in life.
Well, no, the bowl was my mom's punch bowl, and she was like, what are you using it for? I'm like, nothing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh,
yeah, they hear me. Well, it's funny you say that. My grandmother, I was really close to her, and so she was a Murphy clan and Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and we were very, very close. And so when I lost her, it was actually pretty hard, but she was always really, really proud of me and my music. And so I always try to infuse, like, either I'm wearing her jewelry or I'm alluding to something about a place where her family grew up. And so I think she would be pretty proud and think it's awesome. She was into all sorts of things. I think my mom is a little like, what is she doing? What has she become? But, also really glad that I'm doing something musically that I want to. So doing that video was a lot of fun, because we used my photographer's bathroom for the bathroom scenes, and then my studio here for everything else. But the blood's really disgusting, because it's like corn syrup, Hershey syrup, and red food dye. It's so gross, and I had to drink so much of it.
You were like whipping it back. I was like, my
Yeah,
God.
I was like, like trying to make it come out of my mouth. But yeah, I had this idea, and for that song in particular, that's always the idea I had for it. And I was like, this has to be done. So some people come and help me, and I'm like, here's my camera, here's my shot list, this is what I want to do. And so it was really important because it was about, the wedding dress, the spurn lover, having them with you forever through your own kind of perverted communion of sorts. So yeah.
Your mom should have been proud. I mean, what are you going to do with a punch bowl in 2023 post-COVID? I mean,
Exactly.
this is not the Andy Griffith High School reunion.
My own mother was scandalized. She had a yard sale and she had a beautiful crystal punch bowl and all these things. And she said everyone commented on it, but nobody bought it.
It's kind of obsolete. Yeah.
That's a shame. Ugh.
And then the Scorched Earth video I also thought was very well done. Did you have any dance background? It almost was like modern dance to me.
I don't have formal training. I've picked up stuff from working with people on other shows. I've done a few operas that involved choreography. Some of them were choreographed by a contemporary dance group in Denver, actually. And that was actually when we were working on when COVID hit. And so the city shut down on our dress rehearsal. So that opera didn't happen. But we were working with a contemporary dance group to do a lot of the movement. I choreographed a role for an opera I did that toured a little bit. And picked up because I watch a lot of old, weird turn of the century art, like Stravinsky ballet, Martha Graham dance, Isadora Duncan, that sort of stuff. Very contemporary, very of the same time period as composers like Stravinsky that inspire me. So I work really hard at it, and I kind of blend in some of the stuff that I know from gesture from theater and then gesture and posture from Pilates. And I was supposed to start training in dance, but I've been dealing with a shoulder injury. So one of these days I'll actually go and do some formal training.
That's awesome. Should we do our game?
Yeah, I think it's time.
All right. So we play a game. I have 100 random questions in front of me, and you're each going to pick 3 numbers, and that'll correspond to the questions you get.
Between 1 and 100.
Between 1 and 100.
Okay, great.
You go first, Matt.
All right. 99, 8, and 29.
All right. All right. 99. What advice would you give your teenage self?
Don't go to college. Yeah. No, I mean, just like just when it comes to like art and self-expression and music, just do the thing. Just keep doing the thing. That's the only thing that matters, that you just do it. And it doesn't have to be good right away. It doesn't have to be good ever. But the most important thing is that you do the thing, and that you don't feel discouraged to do the thing. Like, play the drums, play the instrument, write the poetry, write the lyrics, write the stupid song. It doesn't matter. Just do it.
You got to make yourself happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't listen to the naysayers.
Mm.
All right. Number 8. Weirdest thing in your parents' or grandparents' home?
Weirdest thing in my parents' or grandparents' home? Oh my God. I think it's my dad has one of those inversion tables. I think that's pretty weird. I think that like it's like I can't imagine strapping myself into one of those, like you like get your head upside down and everything. And he's also like a 75-year-old man, so I don't know how he pulls it off. I don't know how he gets himself in there, especially if he's doing it by himself. But yeah, it's like a pseudo spooky weird medical device, and it kind of gives me the creeps.
Kind of makes you look like a bat.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing?
I mean, for you, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there's this antique store up the road from us. We did the show from there once, and I was talking to the guy, and that's like what they do for a living, is they look for weird stuff like that, because that's what people want to buy in an antique store. like a hairbrush with a naked lady on it. It's
Yeah.
that's the business. I'm glad I'm not in that business.
All right, 29. If you could pick, who would you pick to play you in a movie about your life?
I mean, I guess I just have to like name the litany of actors that people always say look like me, right? So I'm not even familiar with his work, but if we're just going by like looks alone, I get Benedict Cumberbatch a lot. So I think that would be maybe a good one-to-one kind of representation just in terms of looks. Keanu Reeves, I also like I think we kind of like sort of look similar if I could actually like grow some facial hair. But he's also like, I've actually seen a lot of his work and I think he's great. So I'll go with Keanu Reeves as like the earnest answer and not just the boring, like, oh, this guy kind of looks like me answer.
You could add the Matrix moves into your drumming. I'd like
Yeah. Slow motion, everything.
Slow motion, yeah.
Yes.
All right, Miss Moira, you're up.
Okay. 42, 21, and 83.
Number 42. Do you have any nicknames?
Do I have any nicknames? I mean, not any nice ones that people have said to my face.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
21. What is your least favorite song?
Of ours or just in general?
In general.
Okay, there's this song, I don't even know what it's called, but it's something about, it starts with your nose and something about tickling and toes, and there's like a ukulele playing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like head, shoulders, knees, and toes?
So it's like it starts with your toes. I don't, does that sound familiar at all? I want to say her name starts with a C.
Oh, I do know what you're talking about.
And there's like whistling and ukulele music.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
really
pretty bad one.
happy.
Is it
It's like-
something Calby Calais or something? It's pretty horrible.
That's it. Yes.
No, it's not. I agree. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's too happy. So
It's kind of about like when you're first in love and she feels it in her nose and her toes, and it's like, shut up.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's a tie for me between that and Baby Shark.
Oh.
All right, so we're up to number 83. If you had a time machine, what time period would you jet yourself to?
Got so many choices. I would probably say the 1890s. Turn of the century in Germany and France really bred a lot of cool art that inspires me and also inspired kind of the next generation of composers. And things were a lot more freewheeling then than I think people realize because they think of the Victorian era, but it was a pretty wild time. So yeah, 1890s.
1890s. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So you have a couple shows set up that you're going to be doing soon. Do you have any tour plans beyond that?
Not yet. I'm in the process of sending some pitches out to a bunch of people for next spring and summer. And, we're waiting to hear about a couple of things that are kind of amorphously out there at the moment as possibilities. So I'm just trying to get all of the, pitches and the kits together because doing this thing via distance is kind of hard when it comes to that sort of thing. So I'm already thinking ahead to like March, April, May, June next year as it is. Because
Have you
yeah,
guys ever thought about like doing like a whole like cinematic musical,
Yeah, that would be great. We did a kind of a little mini version of that literally days before I moved last year, which was insane. And I don't know why I thought that was a good idea because I was so tired. But yeah, I've thought about it quite a bit about putting together something that would be a full visual because we worked on some drum playthroughs of Matt when I was in town last that I'm putting out on YouTube slowly, that I put together visual video assets for the background, and we had different colored lighting depending on the video of him playing these things, and I would love to do that full scale with the full band, possibly in the same place in Denver one of these days and stream it. But it's just a matter of continuing engaging with people online to get them interested so that there's a demand, so there's an ROI, on, because it's a big investment, especially for me driving 22 hours or flying, across the country. But it does fit the vibe because I love blending visuals, making it a whole experience and making it that sort of thing you can immerse yourself in totally. So I'm working on a little bit of that because we have these 4 shows coming up in Colorado and New Mexico. So I've been building, you can see my little skull back here, building some stuff to make it cool, and visual, as part of it.
Speaking of visual, what are your feelings on that picture?
I really like it. What do you think, Matt?
I like it. Looking back on it, I think like I see the vibe after the edit happened of like the creative direction that you wanted to go to, and I maybe would have chosen to wear something different that maybe like that's in that sort of like film aesthetic of the 70s. But no, I like it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. So I use that one for a lot of stuff right now. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really different. Especially for this genre, really
I
different.
have to tell you, what made me think of like doing a movie, and it's not as great as music as yours at all. But have you ever seen the genetic rock opera, Repo?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Repo
I
Man.
was thinking you guys could do something like that, but
we love it.
Much better music.
We love it. Yeah.
I should check this out and see, because I love all sorts of types of film.
Gory.
Oh, perfect.
The musical made by the guy that did Saw. I mean,
yeah.
There was no not seeing it as soon as
Oh,
I
wait, really?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Paris Hilton is in this disaster. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check this out then, because I love everything.
It's worth a like a prime. Yeah, it's worth.
Yeah, nice.
Give you some ideas to mull around with.
That, and then you got the Frank Zappa book. So we got you. We're giving you all kinds of assignments.
Got my homework.
So who's the darker of you two as far as the
It's easily
gothness?
Moira. Easily. It's not even a question.
Yeah, people worry about me sometimes.
It's so great though, because like I get to see both sides of her, and like we have a shared connection over like our love for our cats, and like she has a wholesome side and like a very like sort of like bubbly alter ego that you definitely don't see being put forward in some of the music video material and like the promo material and whatnot. But
yeah, the bubbly is the let's be normal, survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, most people are like, do you like this rom-com? I'm like, does someone die in it? No. It's like I was watching Forensic Files. I was watching Cold Case Files. I was watching Cabinet of Curiosity.
We're right there with you. We've seen every ID channel, and
yes.
If there's anything about cults, we're seeing it as soon as it's out.
Totally.
We just got done watching the one with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with the 80-year-old man that had 15 wives and they're all under 16. It's crazy.
Yeah, that one, that's a hard one actually to watch, the final episode at least. But yeah, I've because I love mythology and religion so much, it fascinates me how modern cult leaders are able to take some of that imagery, but also take the power of charisma and persuasion. It's very, very fascinating. But yeah, I kind of live in the dark.
Yeah, I kept forgetting that was from like 2020 because it was all like Napoleon Dynamite paneling and stuff,
Yeah.
But I was like, this is not the 60s. This is not Manson. This just happened, basically. It's just hard to believe.
Yeah.
Well,
so we are thoroughly enjoying Sacred and Profane. I was surprised how many works of art bear that name.
Yes.
When you Google it, It goes all the way back to a 1514 series of Swedish chamber choir music. I was like, wow.
What? That's cool. I didn't know that. You'll have to send me the info.
There's a whole list. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot, so you can include this. Oh, and I just ordered your picture, so when it comes, it will be back here on our wall.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You'll live
Yeah.
forever in our wall of fame.
Yes.
Exciting. Yay.
Well, hopefully one day we'll get to see you in Baltimore, maybe. We can
Yeah,
go.
that would be. Yeah, I kind of talked to a few bands up in that area, and we work with the same PR firm sometimes. So I've been talking to them on and off, like even doing just a collab on a song. So it'd be really cool if we could do some shows together one of these days.
That's awesome.
We will be there. We were at a show last night, and the guy was tuning up, and he said, "More me," right? And I had forgotten that when I would get on stage, when I was tuning up, I would say, "More me, less him." I had forgotten it.
Falling on deaf ears.
Okay, Deaf Ears 1 is Elwood Stray. The album is Gone with the Flow. Just when we were convinced all the good hardcore, metalcore, even manticore was exclusively flooding out of the UK this year, this talented five-piece from Essen, Germany, throws their black hoodie from the University of Skronk into the ring with a full-length debut, Gone with the Flow. It's 11 tracks of pummeling, pit-churning guitar, bitch-slapping percussion, and vocals that are both hard-screamed and melodic. The young band shows quite the knack for weaving high drama. Guitarist Fabian Potts and vocalist Make Nerkborn displaying a penchant for soaring pop hooks 1 minute and head-slamming punishment the next.
On the very first listen, it's evident why these four have built such a following in just a short few years of existence. Spotify shows them just shy of 150K monthly listeners. A crunching riff or dramatic hook is never more than a few seconds away. The introspective, clean melodies that bubble up at the tail end of Decay set up a lyrical guitar solo that actually goes on for a few bars. Very uncore for a band like this. The disc is packed with memorable tunes, but the nod for the tour de force goes to Uncertain Me. Necrom hacking and spitting, should I stay or should I go lyrics that seethe with angst and frustration. The hooky chorus setting up perhaps the album's best riff in the back half of the song, bolstered by some interesting guitar noodling from Pez and second guitar nihilist Niels Floor. Impressive stuff recommended for fans of alt-rock like Otherwise and Parkway Drive.
Okay, and what song are we going to play?
This is Decay.
Okay, Deaf Ears 2, We Are Pigs, Private School. For years in the music industry, executives were the ones pulling the strings on the artists, dictating how they should sing and look and sound. Enter one S.J. Jones, who had already built quite a name for herself as the producer for Grey Days, who now is getting a lot of head snapping with her latest project, We Are Pigs. Albums? Well, no, that is the old way. Singles are where it's at now in the ADHD culture. She uses her deep-reaching connections in the music industry and collaborates with stars of the industry as guest vocalist or co-writing to make sure each song is its own beast. In Private School, Christian Rivera's guitars are distorted and dissonant, while she provides cyanide-sharp vocals that would make Carla Harvey smile. For the chorus, she switches it up to a crooning melody as she caresses the words, "You are so private school," before driving back into the heavy nu metal throb.
For Moot, SJ starts with her acidic caterwauling right out of the blocks, screeching over pounding beats and wailing riffs. Morgan Lander of Kitty adds her clean yet angry vocals to the mix, directing us to hold the door, vacillate, Jesus Christ, procreate. For the track Kids, She co-writes with Korn's Brian Head Wilson to create a cyclical melody carried in waves by the pulsing beat that is downright sexy. When she screams the chorus, "The kids are all right," you get the distinct impression the opposite may be true. In Pulse Queen, the beats click off like the shutter of a paparazzi camera as she makes fun of the Kardashian fake-type brand, reminding them to take another selfie as she alternates vocals between a wispy, melodic dissolving into her signature shrieks over more unhinged minor guitar riffs echoing underneath. You have to give SJ all the props. Produce, write, perform, collaborate, make your own style, screw the executives, cut the strings, and turn the music industry on its ear.
You should just call the guy Head. back in the 90s, but whatever. All right, so this let's play a song. This is Pigs. Okay, Deaf Ears 3 is the new Skindred. The album is called Smile. Damn you, Kerrang! Magazine. You introduced me to Tank and Heavy Pettin' in the 80s, the Wild Hearts and the Almighty in the 90s, but every once in a while, you hook me on something ridiculous. Remember The Organization? Savor the Flavor? I was the laughing stock of the metal community for buying and actually enjoying that one. I think they introduced me to Last Crack, too. I think that was a Kerrang! Thing. But anyway, so it takes me to what you did it again, 10 years ago? These Welsh reggae-obsessed weirdos known as Skindred with their ZZ Top beards, dreadlocks, spiked sunglasses, and other assorted weirdness. They've been toying with my inner child now again with a new album called Smile. Once again, they're proving to be like the Black Eyed Peas of nu metal. 12 songs of chunky riffs, playful Rasta experimentation, and festival-ready choruses that bury themselves permanently in my brain after just one listen.
Strangely, these goofballs have found their way back to Earache, the label that they loved to hate in the early days. Not sure what the backstory is, but their flair for never heady, always captivating rap reggae has not dulled one iota since the late 1990s. Olympic pogo exercises like Gimme That Boom and Set Phasers are bound to take stadiums by storm as the band tears across Europe. But the one that really has Super Bowl halftime potential is State of the Union. Its buzzy synths, danceable beat, and funk guitar bound to get hips moving nationwide. Sure, you can shut the windows out and gloom out to Nick Cave and The Cure all weekend, but once in a while you need some fun, sunny tunes. Skindred are happy to scratch that particular itch, possibly in neon pink bucket hats. What else could one need?
Okay, let's play a song.
This is State of the Union.
Wow. Well,
yeah, they have a lot going on. That's Skindred. They're tearing across the UK with varying supporting bands, including one Saint Agnes that we talked about recently, and As Everything Unfolds.
Yeah, they're never coming here. God damn it. I wish they would. It's like every other band is one that we feature on the show. So this was a good one. We made creative homeless people signs. It's great.
Yeah, well, we revisited the making of the epic The Ballad of Silas Turner.
Still can't believe you were listening to music after 4 o'clock after we talked about it. We wrote some creative letters to Consumer Affairs.
We discussed the great blueberry debacle.
Don't remind me. What a fucking mess. Put a piece of tape on there.
This has been the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast. Special thanks to Moira and Matt from Oyrad for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme courtesy of Jens Kemgren of the Firebombs. Long may they reign. Deaf Ears theme by Tim Green of the Fucking Champs. Season 3 artwork courtesy of Casey Angel. You can find him on Instagram, Casey Angel Art. Deaf Ears bands, get over there, as well as Oyrad. Check them out, and also get over and check out Skindred, We Are Pigs, and Elwood Stray. All content 2023, the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Beer. Seltzer. Get it right.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.